Hablemos de ciencia con
Fefo.
Hola, les saluda Fefo en Hablemos de Ciencia con Fefo. Gracias por acompañarme. En esta ocasión tenemos una entrevista que está en inglés, pero antes de pasar a la entrevista quiero dar una pequeña introducción de qué se trata y de por qué la estamos haciendo. For those of you who want to see this interview, I have to say that it is in English, but bear with me for a couple of minutes before I introduce to my Spanish-speaking audience what this interview is going to be about. So you can just skip to the interview unless you want to see how the introduction sounds in Spanish. Desde que surge la física como una ciencia moderna, uno de los hilos conductores, una de las motivaciones principales que hemos tenido en alrededor de 400 años ha sido el de la unificación. Desde que con el trabajo de Kepler y Galileo, Newton logró manifestar de manera muy concisa una unificación entre el cielo y la tierra, enseñándonos que los fenómenos que observamos aquí en este planeta, los seres humanos, cotidianamente, son regidos por leyes de la naturaleza que también aplican a la luna, al sol y a los demás astros. Una vez que se logró esa unificación, se logró avanzar muchísimo en el entendimiento de la naturaleza. Pasaron varios años y más fenómenos naturales fueron comprendidos y estudiados. En el siglo XIX, Maxwell logró unificar de una manera muy concisa y muy linda los fenómenos eléctricos y magnéticos, llegando a la conclusión de que ambos eran en realidad diferentes manifestaciones de una sola interacción, la interacción electromagnética. Junto con la interacción gravitacional que había descrito Newton, llegamos al siglo XX, en donde suceden grandes revoluciones durante las primeras décadas. En términos muy generales, estas revoluciones se vieron digamos, originadas o gestadas con la creación de la relatividad especial por Albert Einstein y por la construcción, descubrimiento de lo que llamamos la mecánica cuántica, que es la física de lo microscópico. Ahí, a través del trabajo de muchas personas y durante varias décadas, descubrimos que, aparte de la interacción electromagnética y de la gravitacional, existen al menos otras dos interacciones que les llamamos interacciones nucleares, fuerte y débil. Se les llama nucleares porque las descubrimos cuando empezamos a analizar los núcleos de los átomos. Es ahí donde esas interacciones juegan un rol. Y antes del siglo XX jamás habíamos podido explorar el mundo microscópico a esos niveles y por lo tanto no se habían manifestado. Einstein, una vez que desarrolla lo que conocemos como la relatividad general, que es la nueva teoría de la gravedad, la que actualmente conocemos como la teoría de la gravedad, inmediatamente intentó y fracasó durante muchos años unificar la teoría de la gravedad con el electromagnetismo, generando así una unificación de esas dos interacciones. Una vez que se descubren las otras dos, empieza también un camino a tratar de entenderlas y a mediados más o menos del siglo pasado, toda una comunidad de científicas y científicos empezaron a desarrollar algo que se conoce como la teoría de campos cuánticos o la teoría cuántica de campos, como quieran traducirlo. Y dentro de ese contexto se encontró hacer una síntesis que permitía juntar la relatividad especial con la mecánica cuántica y eventualmente, gracias a la teoría de campos cuántica, generar una teoría moderna de las interacciones electromagnéticas. Pasaron unos años y entonces la idea de una unificación mayor continúa. Y es así como llegamos a por ahí de la década de los 60, en donde se empiezan a concretar ideas relacionadas con cómo entendemos la interacción electromagnética y quizás utilizar ese mismo marco, ese mismo, digamos, contexto matemático, físico, para tratar de incorporar a las otras dos. En la década de los 60 surge la teoría electrodébil, en donde se unifica a la interacción electromagnética con la interacción nuclear débil en un solo marco consistente. Posteriormente, más o menos al mismo tiempo, de manera paralela, también se logra de alguna manera incorporar, aunque no de manera unificada, a la interacción fuerte, generando lo que hoy en día conocemos y desde aquella época, desde los 70s, como el modelo estándar de las partículas elementales, que corresponde a la teoría científica, es decir, a la serie de conocimientos, al grupo de conocimientos verificados experimentalmente, más precisa que el ser humano haya logrado crear hasta el momento. Esa unificación electrodébil se logra a través del trabajo e ideas de varias personas, pero concretada por una persona que se llama Sheldon Glashow, quien junto con Stephen Weinberg y Abdus Salam recibió el premio Nobel en 1979 por precisamente el descubrimiento, la creación de este marco que le llamamos la teoría electrodébil y que pasa a formar parte de lo que hoy conocemos como el modelo estándar. La semana pasada, Shelley, como le dicen sus amigos y conocidos, cumplió 93 años y tuve la oportunidad de platicar con él un ratito y aquí les quiero compartir esa conversación. Antes de platicar con él, también a algunas y algunos de ustedes, seguidores de este canal, les pedí que me enviaran preguntas que ustedes le harían a esta persona si se la encontraran, si les di un poquito de contexto de quién se trataba y les dije qué le preguntarían. Seleccioné varias de las preguntas que ustedes amablemente me enviaron y en la segunda parte de mi conversación con Shelley las contestó. Así que sin más por el momento, continuamos para presentarles esa conversación. Está en inglés. Yo quiero publicarla pronto, no he tenido tiempo para hacer un doblaje y los subtítulos seguramente los podrán ver ustedes en español, son los que se generan automáticamente en la plataforma de YouTube. Espero pronto ponerme a trabajar duro para sacar una versión en español doblada. Necesito encontrar una voz elegante para que pueda hacerle justicia a los comentarios de Shelley. Muy bien, pues vámonos.
Why are you wearing sunglasses?
They look like sunglasses, but they're reading glasses.
Oh, they're reading glasses. Okay. Oh, what are you have pictures of all kinds of scientists on the
Oh, yeah. They are actually drawings, all of them made by one student of mine.
Oh, marvelous.
She's quite a talented artist, and I asked her to do one at a time every once in a while until I could fill out my wall at the office. There you go.
Ah, okay.
I can see you now.
Okay. It was the host had to push a button. You're the host. Oh.
Can you try that? I'm not sure if it's going to work, but yeah, that's much better for Zoom.
But now you're upside down.
Ah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah. In terms of what I need for the recording, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I can see you. I can see you. It's just sideways.
So now I have to do something like this. All right. So if you feel like it, we can get started with the interview.
Why not?
All right. So I'm thinking of doing two things. The first half of the interview, some general questions on your timeline. But there are many wonderful interviews of you already out there, in the cloud.
Yes.
So I want to get to a second part of the interview where I've asked several of my followers to send you questions. And these are non-scientific people. They like science. They follow my program. Some of them are students. Some of them are professionals, physicians, things like that. And then a few high school teachers. So that's more or less the plan that I'm thinking.
But where are these questions?
Oh, I'm gonna ask them. I'm gonna send them to you.
Okay. You're gonna.
They are very general, very, very simple. You don't have to write anything. I just want to know what's in your mind when I ask these questions. And so I'm gonna start off by asking you something that I read somewhere or I heard somewhere about you when you were in high school about selenium.
Oh yes, that was my favorite element.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about why it was your favorite element, or I'm guessing there is some anecdote related to selenium.
Well, not exactly, but I don't remember why. Well, let me back up. As a child, I had a chemistry set, and of course, chemistry sets don't have very many exciting things, but they're intended for children.
Right.
But then I got very interested in chemistry, and I convinced my father to build me a little. We own our own house in New York. Build me a little laboratory in a closet.
Oops. Our camera is having a life of its own.
No, it dropped. It's
Yeah.
it's in a mount which easily flips. So I got interested in selenium because it seemed like from my readings that it had a very interesting chemistry. And so in this laboratory, I started playing with selenium. I was able to get all kinds of chemicals because my brother, although in those days this was a little after the war. My brother was already a doctor, and so using his name, I could order any chemicals I wanted, including selenium powder and bromine liquid and all kinds of things. Concentrated nitric acid. I had all these things in my basement. So I also, for fun, would make explosives and
No kidding.
explode them outdoors, fireworks.
Nice.
So I got interested in selenium's chemistry. So I went to the biggest library in America, the New York Public Library, and got some old 19th century textbooks on chemistry syntheses. Not the sort of things you can easily find these days, but they gave step-by-step instructions for how to make a selenium oxychloride, which is a familiar cleaning agent that's used in laboratories, selenium bromide, selenium hexafluoride. No, I did not make that. But that's kind of in there. But the most exciting one was selenium nitride.
I see.
And then I was a junior in high school, or a senior, and it was time to have a project for the Westinghouse Science Talent Search, which is today called some other name.
I think it's Intel or something like that.
The what?
Intel?
No, it went on It's Regeneron now.
Ah, okay.
Now
I
it's
see.
Regeneron.
I see.
It's floating around from company to company, from Westinghouse to something else, and now
I see.
it's stable at Regeneron.
Okay.
And the scholarships have gone up. When I did it, I got $100, and today, if you're the top winner, you get over $10,000. So,
Okay.
whatever. So I was preparing for that contest, and I decided not to do I had to have a realistic project. So I tried to synthesize to have bugs synthesize penicillin. We knew how to grow. All you have to do is I could get the penicillin bug from easily enough. Was I wanted to grow it. No, I'm not talking about penicillin. I'm talking about that's too complicated. I was thinking about. I'm trying to remember. I was trying to synthesize, just as an exercise, chlorophyll.
Oh, I see.
Which is easily obtainable from plants. Chlorophyll with substituting selenium for sulfur.
I see. Okay.
So I would
So
grow
maybe in a tomato plant or something like that.
Tomato plants.
Okay.
So I grew some tomato plants. Well, I don't remember quite. I did. I think I transferred some young tomato plants into a hydroponic solution where there was no sulfur but selenium. And of course, I didn't quite succeed in doing that. That was much too ambitious a thing to do, but it got me the Westinghouse scholarship.
Nice.
Not the big one. No, the big one was $1,000, but there were 40 of us. We went to Washington, D.C. I met President Harry Truman. I shook his hand.
Okay.
That was fun.
That was fun.
That was fun, and I made some very good friends when I was there.
So you were really into chemistry at the time, then?
At the time, I was into chemistry.
Interesting.
And by the time I left high school, I switched to physics.
I see.
And in fact, I remember just a few days ago, I made a list of my high school friends who became physicists, who became professors. And I got 10 of them.
10 of them. Okay.
Out of my memory, from my class.
From your class. So
one was Steven Weinberg, who I
course.
shared the Nobel Prize with.
Of course, that's a very, very peculiar and interesting story. But before we go into that, you said there were 10 people from your class that eventually became physics professors. Now,
yes.
Do you think your high school had something to do with that? The high school itself, or a teacher perhaps, or how do you explain it?
Yeah, well, I think the explanation is twofold. Most of the 10 were Jewish.
Yes.
The area that the high school served was mostly Jewish, so it wasn't surprising that many of the students there would be Jewish. Not all. One was a couple of them were actually immigrants who had immigrated in 1938 from Germany.
Yes.
One from Luxembourg, one from Sweden. I don't know why the Swede came, but he was there. The high school gathered the smartest kids in the area. You had to take an examination to get into Bronx Science.
I see.
And the examination was rather tough. And I missed the examination because I got what do you call it, appendicitis on the day of the exam. So I took a makeup exam a week later, and that was okay. It was my brother, the doctor, who diagnosed
your appendicitis.
appendicitis, and he said that you don't have to have surgery. It's under control, and it's going to go away. So it did go away, and I really did get the operation, but that was 50 years later.
50 years later, okay.
50.
Yeah, 50.
50. Yes. Yeah. So that, of course, by that time the operation was trivial. It was done without making an incision, just arthroscopically.
So not to get very far ahead of ourselves, but you just mentioned Stephen, and something that is quite remarkable from the point of view of the history of physics is that, well, people know, of course, there's no secret. You share the Nobel Prize with him and with Salam. And it is rather interesting that you were at the same high school. You knew each other from that time. But at some point in your graduate school, and then as you started being a professional physicist, it's not that you worked together. You independently got to basically similar things, and in particular, for the work that you both received the Nobel Prize. I think that's a remarkable story.
It's an interesting story. It's not exactly as you said it, because we did completely different things, and it was many years apart. I did my work in 1960. He did his work in 1967, the key important things. And we did not work together except for two papers that we wrote, one of which was quite important. Mostly we were totally independent of one another.
Yes. But you did interact as high school students and perhaps also undergrad?
Yes. We both, mostly at high school, but in college, we both went to Cornell.
Yes.
That's an interesting story. We were both accepted to Cornell and MIT and Cornell, MIT, and Princeton.
Yes.
We were both rejected to Harvard.
Okay.
Okay. So we decided that Steve's father would drive us to these schools, and we would visit each one of them and make the decision of which to go to. So we did that thing, and the three of us visited MIT, and we found it was very urban. There was no countryside. We didn't like that. Then we went to Princeton and had nice countryside, but no girls. And then we went to Cornell, which had lots of girls and lots
countryside.
And it's countryside. So we both went to Cornell.
Interesting.
And at Cornell, we were both physics majors, so we interacted a great deal.
Yeah. This was what, early 50s?
Yes, 50 to 54 in Cornell.
So Richard Feynman was there as a professor at the time, or he had already left?
He had already left, or if we may have overlapped for 1 year, but we never met him.
And what about Hans Bethe? Did you interact with him at all?
Yes, I took a course with Hans Bethe, and a graduate course. He was not a good teacher. But I did have a course with him, and I didn't really get to know him very well.
I see. But then,
and then we split up. He being Steve went to where did he go? He went to Princeton, and I went to for graduate school. I went to Harvard.
To Harvard, yes.
So at that point, we split for a few years until after a number of years, we both ended up as professors at Berkeley.
So you did go to the West Coast at some point, huh?
I spent 5 years in the West Coast. 1 year at Caltech, 1 year at Stanford, and a few years at Berkeley.
Yeah, and was Gelman responsible for that? Did he convince you?
Yes.
Okay. He
I
was
was
trying to get everyone to California at the time, right? All
Sorry?
the good people. Gelman was trying to get all the interesting young scientists to the West Coast at the time.
Yeah, he was, but there weren't too many. At the time I was there, I was the only visitor.
Uh-huh.
But he would usually have one or two people around,
Right.
gather around him. He didn't work collaboratively except for a time with Feynman.
Uh-huh.
And interestingly, with Feynman, you know, the Eightfold Way paper by Gelman, where he introduces flavor SU3.
Yes.
Which was done at the same time that Neyman did the same thing in Israel. That paper was originally signed by Feynman and Gelman.
No kidding.
Yes, but Feynman, there was an original preprint which I didn't keep, which had both names. But at some point, Feynman decided it was too speculative for him. So
Wow.
he removed he asked to have his name removed from the
Interesting.
paper.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that story. Let's go back a bit to Harvard and
Yes.
And Schwinger, Julian Schwinger,
Yes.
your PhD advisor. So
He-
I've heard somewhere I read that at the time when you went to Harvard and then started to think about working with someone, apparently there was a group of students in your class that all wanted to study with or work with Schwinger.
Well, the only person who was doing particle theory at Harvard at that time was Julian Schwinger. So
Okay.
all of us who were excited by particles, and there were a lot of us, there's about 10 of us, who showed up in his office at the same time, and he assigned thesis subjects to each of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was about the last person online.
Okay.
Run out of sensible subjects.
He ran out of subjects.
What?
He ran out of subjects, or what?
Well, he didn't. He didn't give me a precisely defined challenge. He said, "I think there should be a unified theory of weak and electromagnetic interactions.
Wow.
I think you might find the Yang-Mills theory relevant. Go and do it."
No kidding.
That's what happened, and I didn't quite do it, but I saw my way to. I convinced myself that there had to be a way to do it, but I didn't. And then I graduated in 1958 and went to Copenhagen. And in Copenhagen in 1959, I realized that the group had to be SU2 cross U1. And I wrote the paper
Fantastic.
that got my Nobel Prize.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Beautiful. Now, before the SU2 cross U1 paper, though, which of course, as you just mentioned, the I guess the seed for these, involved your PhD degree. You also did something or discussed something about the muon neutrino during your PhD.
Oh, no, that's not my PhD. That was from Copenhagen in 1959 or 1960 in Copenhagen. I wrote a little paper suggesting that muon neutrinos, if they're energetic enough, could make the hypothetical W boson.
Right.
But at that time, there was no idea of what the mass of such a particle would be. It could have been much less than it turned out to be.
Yes.
So it was not unrealistic to expect that there might be neutrinos, cosmic ray neutrinos of the right energy to make to hit the resonance.
Uh-huh.
So I did suggest that, but it took a hell of a long time for there to be one possible indication of
Yes.
the existence of the resonance. That was just an odd physical review letter that I wrote.
But even before that, like when the idea of muon neutrino was not even clear to people, I think there was an anecdote with in your thesis, maybe during your defense or something like that people.
Oh
were
yes.
asking you-
Oh yes. Yes, there was.
So even at that time, you were already thinking about the possibility of a second different neutrino species.
Well, indeed I was. I took the thesis exam, the oral exam, in the spring of 1958.
Okay.
And at that time, Schwinger had lost interest in particle physics and had moved on to condensed matter physics. And he spent that semester in Madison, Wisconsin. So I had to travel to Madison, Wisconsin for my formal examination. The committee consisted of Schwinger, Paul Martin, who was a
Yes.
physics professor at Harvard, who was also working with Schwinger, some other guy from Madison, whose name I forgot, and Frank Yang.
I see.
C.C. Yang.
Okay.
So it turns out that Schwinger, for various reasons, had always insisted that the electron neutrino and muon neutrino are probably distinct from one another. And that was included in his teaching. His argument was very simple. He said, if we're going to have a thing we call lepton number, then it would be silly to give it to both the muon and the electron. Lepton numbers should distinguish between the muon and electron. So, of course, they should be different particles. That was kind of an argument from elegance.
Yes, very neat.
So therefore, I considered it a realistic possibility that there were two neutrinos. And I discussed that in my thesis.
I see.
And as I mentioned, the fact that the electron and muon neutrinos might be distinct from one another, Yang interrupted me. He said, Mr. Glashow, your idea that the neutrinos can be different from one another, that's impossible, because there's no way that you could distinguish between the one neutrino and the other neutrino. And Schwinger then broke in and he said, Shelley, let me answer that question. So Schwinger explains to Yang just how you can do an experiment to distinguish between electron neutrinos and muon neutrinos. He described the experiment that would be done 5 years later, 4 years later, by Schwartz, Steinberger, and Lederman at Brookhaven Lab, which earned them a Nobel Prize.
Right.
So it turns out that he wrote, he and T.D. Lee wrote a paper in 1960 suggesting the experiment that Schwartz, Steinberger, and Lederman did.
Wow.
But he had stolen the idea from Julian Schwinger.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. And I distrusted my memory about that. So maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I visited China and I talked to Yang and I explained to him this incident and asked him if that was how he remembered it.
Okay.
And he said, yes, Shelley, that's exactly how it was.
Wow. Wow, that's really nice. Really interesting story, Shelley. Thanks for sharing it.
But Yang, of course, was a great scientist nonetheless, and he remained a friend of mine despite this.
Yes, of course. So somehow, and we'll get back to the SU2 cross U1 discovery, but somehow your life at that time was linked to the second generation, Because then with Bjorken, a few years after that, I think in 63, 64.
64, Bjorken and I
yeah,
introduced the charmed quark, and we gave it its name.
Right.
And then it was with the Iliopolis and Miami that we extended the notion to the third family.
Yes, with the gene mechanism.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So, okay. So let's just go a little bit back to Copenhagen, Niels Bohr Institute, I'm guessing. You are there after your PhD working on this potential unification, electromagnetism and the weak force, the weak interaction. And then you finally find, you discover that it is SU2 cross U1.
Right.
What was, if possible, maybe it was many things, but if possible, what was the driving force? Was it experiment or was it formalism?
The driving force was the elegance of the idea that, well, many people, remember, have tried to put together different forces of nature. Einstein finally tried to, for many years, tried to unify gravity with electromagnetism, and on several occasions he thought he had succeeded, but of course he didn't. He failed. Yukawa intended to unify weak, strong electromagnetic interactions. He explained how his hypothetical mesotron could be the agent of the strong force by being exchanged by nuclei, and then if it were also coupled to electrons and neutrinos, it could explain beta decay. So he thought that he could explain everything with his mesotrons. So it wasn't unfamiliar to try to create a unification, and many people were trying to find some higher symmetry of the weak interactions, or some further degree of elegance among the strong or weak interactions. And I was strongly motivated to do this. Now, so were Salam and Ward, were out there trying to do the same thing. And they wrote a bunch of papers which were quite wrong about the subject until Salam, without Ward, in 1964, 4 years after my paper, did the same thing. And if you read his paper, it's identical to my paper.
Yes.
This is very strange.
Yeah, and it is also, I think, in a proceedings, if I'm correct.
It's published in the Italian journal. In what was it called?
Nuovo Cimento.
Nuovo Cimento, yes. Published in '64, as I remember. Okay. And mine was published in '61, but submitted in '60 while I was in Copenhagen.
Yes.
Anyway, that's interestingly, it's also true that Salam did what Steve Weinberg did 1 year after Steve did it.
Yes. It's always been a source of controversy in regard to the Nobel Prize, those are also very interesting things for historians and people who dwell into these prizes and things like that. There's plenty of literature on that subject. Going back to the fourth quark, so. For the case of the fourth quark with Bjorken and the work that you did there, was there an experimental result that was leading you to that, or was it more like a mathematics intuition?
I'll explain it to you. There was no experiment suggesting a fourth quark. The situation at that time, you will remember, that this was after the discovery by Schwarz, Steinberger, and Lederman of the second neutrino. So we knew that there was an electron neutrino, and with the electron, that is to say, that there was an electronic doublet of leptons, and there was a muonic doublet of leptons. So there were two doublets of leptons, but there was only three quarks. There was a doublet and a singlet. And the obvious suggestion is, for elegance, is that you should write down you should introduce a fourth quark and make the interaction symmetric among the two doublets.
Excellent. So now you used a word that I was trying to fish out of you, which is elegance.
Yes.
What does elegance mean for a theoretical physicist?
Well, it's different for different people, but I certainly regarded the search for a higher symmetry among all of the particles that were known in the early 1950s, and I worked on that for a while, and I was very favorably impressed by Gell-Mann's creation of the flavor SU3. There were many precursors to that. Schwinger had his own idea of SU2 cross SU2 cross SU2 cubed. Some other guys had 07, G7, another had SO7. So there were all kinds of attempts at making universal, simplifying the structure of all those different baryons and leptons.
Yes.
There was also Sakata, who was the first person to introduce flavor SU3, but not in the way that Murray did.
Correct.
And I got involved I was at Caltech at that time, and with Sidney Coleman, we made one interesting contribution to the field, is we showed how to reduce, how you didn't have to work with 8-dimensional matrices the way Murray had, but you could do everything with 3x3 matrices.
Yes.
And so we calculated the Coleman-Glashow mass formula for the electromagnetic mass differences using 3x3 matrices instead of 8x8 matrices.
Yes.
And that was, of course, a much more than ordinary people could do things with 3x3 matrices.
Yes. So, an ambitious man. Maxwell unified electricity and magnetism, and then a few decades after that, several decades after that, you realize that you can do the same thing and incorporate the weak force into that framework, with a lot of developments and things from other people as well. But you accomplished that, and you.
I was told to do that by Schwinger.
Exactly. Okay, fine. And then, of course, Yang and Niels had the gauge, non-abelian gauge theories, and you incorporated many ideas, and then you came up with your creativity and your knowledge.
But two things came first. Two things came first were Schwinger and, as you said, Yang and Mills. Right?
Yes, sir. But then, an ambitious man, that was quite an accomplishment, I would argue. But then you said, well, this thing is like a 1, 2, 3 when we put in QCD as well, and we call it the standard model. But I want to put everything into a simple group.
Yes.
I want to unify everything. You continue with the.
We didn't like the complexity of the group. It was a semi-simple group, not a simple group.
Right.
And we wanted it to be a simple group.
So it's a very beautiful thing, but not quite, right?
Well, it's not right. No, that's right. And its extension to O10 is also same spirit. That's one step better that Howard Georgi did.
Yes.
Because the way I did it at SU5 with Howard is the particles didn't, the leptons, sorry, it was a reducible representation. It was, each family was a 10 plus a 5.
Yes.
Whereas in O10, there's the 10 and the 5 are linked together, and there are 16-dimensional representations.
Yes.
So that was
the right-handed neutrino right there.
Right there. So that was a very nice development as well.
Indeed.
But unfortunately, despite the best efforts of people like Suak and others who were searching for proton decay, they didn't find it.
No proton decay.
Still looking. They're still looking.
Right. But the idea didn't die, and people kept trying. Then supersymmetry came along more or less at the same time. Then string theory, for different reasons, was originated, but then, you know, they at the beginning, in the early late 80s, perhaps, the quest for unification was very strong. It was a strong motivator for stringers.
It was.
Yeah. And then, you know, it's been 50 years since then, and we haven't found it yet.
It hasn't gone very far, but there were still many people who are working on string theory and even working on supersymmetry. But
Yes.
both remain active fields of endeavor.
Right. Okay.
Some people never give up.
Never give up. So I'm gonna leave. As I told you at the beginning, there are a few questions from some of the people that follow this channel, and there are a few questions there about string theory and your views on supersymmetry and things like that. But before we get to that, let me switch gears to finish this first half of our interview, and talk about some more general things that I would like your opinion on. First of all, I've found many interviews and comments that you've made throughout the years that show me that you do interact a lot with non-scientific people. You seem to have an interest in communicating science and showing why it's important. So I don't know if you could say a few words on why you think that talking about science to the general public is something important.
Especially today, talking about the importance of science is especially important. As you know, my country has thrived since the Second World War on the basis of science. And it was science that led in many respects, led to the wealth and success of America. Born in the you disappeared. Born in the Second World War with developments in radar and atomic bombs and many other such things. And we've been very generously supported, all of the sciences. Another proof of how useful it was the rapidity with which we developed the COVID vaccine. Again, because my country was handsomely supported by the federal government. And now, today, the federal government has cut the budget of the National Science Foundation in half, has more than cut the science budget of, I think they made basically cut the NASA budget in half. Same is true with the National Institute of Health. It's a catastrophic situation for science today. The scientists now are leaving, going back to China if they were Chinese born, and we are losing our status as a country that was preeminent among others. So this is very much important, I think, for scientists today, especially younger scientists, to spread the importance of science to society. And therefore, what you're doing, for example, I think is very important, which is why I'm spending an hour watching you upside down.
So here's another one. Why invest in fundamental science? Why would you recommend a country, a government, not necessarily yours, any government in the world, to invest in fundamental science?
Well, that's another question which I'm sure has interested you. And the answer is clear. It's virtually religious. I feel it is our duty, our obligation, having been born as intelligent creatures, to try to understand the universe that we were born to. It is kind of an obligation.
All right.
That's the best I can say. And
that's what makes us human.
It's the nature of the human person. I mean, people, basic science was pursued by Kepler, by Galileo, by Newton, over the years, forever. Even the Greeks, of course, possibly, especially the Greeks, because after all, it was Democritus and Leucippus who introduced the atomic hypothesis, which at the time was a totally useless notion.
Yes.
We've always been doing that, and we always will.
Yes, we will. We will do it. You mentioned China. China is pouring money into science for the past decade or so, has been pouring money into science in very general areas, not only fundamental, but including fundamental science.
Oh, yeah.
Before, you also mentioned that your country, the United States of America, since basically Second World War, became and has been and currently is the number one in terms of scientific production and discoveries and support and all of that. And that seems to be changing. Before that, it was, Germany, England, Britain. It's been shifting. Do you perceive a shift in science today?
China is pulling out all the stops. It's very. I've made about 6 or 7 trips to China in the past 20 years, and I find that the establishment is growing tremendously. Especially, was I impressed last year when I went to Beijing to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the discovery of the jade psi. And I went with Sam Ting, who was being honored for this discovery, and of course I was there too. And I got to see some of the rather brilliant work that was being done at Beijing, among other things, developing the detectors for one of the things at the Large Hadron Collider, which they showed me this piece, which would be shipped to America. It would be shipped to CERN for finishing touches and then shipped back to America. I met the kids who were doing this kind of work, and they were very impressive scientists themselves. So it's clear that they're developing science and mathematics very rapidly. And in mathematics, I think they are superior to us at this point. They're, in many respects, they have the best. Well, give me an example. I had a student named Andy Yao who got his PhD with me, and I took him to CERN. He spent a year with me at CERN. He went back home. He married a computer scientist, a lady who was a computer scientist. She convinced him to switch to computer science. He took a second PhD at Princeton, and then he won the Turing Medal.
Okay.
the Nobel Prize for Computer Science, if
Yes.
you will. And the Chinese brought him back and made him a irresistible position in China, where he is today. And he's very happy. Well, at least he was happy until Xi came into power.
Uh-huh. One of the ingredients that has made the U.S. or made the U.S. one of the main powers in terms of science, in my opinion, was the fact that it has always been in the academia sector very open to people from all over the world. There was like this strategy, this philosophy of trying to get the best people and offer them a good living standard and good opportunities to develop their work, you know.
Yes, beginning in the mid 1930s, of course, we attracted many of the best scientists of
and you kept
Europe.
doing it, and you kept doing it for a lot of time. Do you see that happening in Asia?
Yes,
Okay.
to a lesser extent, but Asia means China. It's Japan doesn't import very many foreign scientists, but China has no prejudice against foreigners. They're happy to deal with not just Chinese Americans, but also others, and that is very much true today. And there are many attempts to attract Americans who have lost their jobs due to the cuts that have been made by Trump. So we've been cooperated with China in its growth at this time, and of course they may build the next accelerator. The United States dropped out of accelerator construction in 1994 with the cancellation of the superconducting supercollider.
Right.
And now the Chinese are about to build an electron ring, which will be possibly a Higgs factory that will be interesting. And of course, it will be a predecessor to a much larger hadron collider in the 100 TeV region, which the Europeans would like to build as well, and hopefully either China or Europe will build it. But yes, the Chinese are very much excited and willing to spend money to do good science.
Indeed, they are. So to finish this part, as you know, I'm at the University of Colima, and I want to just ask you a couple of things about Mexico. Several years ago, you were invited to participate in the scientific council of the MCTP, which is like a branch of the ICTP, the International Center for Theoretical Physics in Trieste, in Italy.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that right? You've been
yes, I went
participating
to Chiapas, to the University of Chiapas.
Yes.
And from whom I have an honorary degree. In fact, I proudly have an honorary doctorate from the University of Chiapas.
Yes.
And I spent some time with them. I think I made only one physical visit with them, but my colleague from Mexico visited me at some point, and well, we've not been continuing.
I see.
I don't know if that entity that they've created, this sister to the Trieste Institute, still exists.
Or I think it does. I'm not sure in what capacity, but it does exist. And I was wondering if you kept in touch with them, but seems that faded away.
It faded away, yes. After only for a few years was I doing that. Then I got a little bit too old to travel, so yes. I haven't been doing that much.
And lastly, I don't know if my memory is right on this one, but I remember when I met you at BU, and then you found out I was from Mexico and that I was coming to Colima. I sort of remember that you told me that you had a friend in Manzanillo. Like he owned a hotel and that you had been in Manzanillo for a few times.
Oh, I didn't know the guy. The guy was, he made his money from tin. And the name of the hotel was, what's the name? How do you say a fairy tale in Spanish?
Cuento?
What?
Cuento?
No.
No. Well, anyways.
And anyway, the name of the hotel that this tin person made means fairy tale.
Okay.
And
it is in Manzanillo.
I wish I could remember but then I went there 3 times with my brother.
Okay.
We had a very nice, and my wife, of course.
Yeah, for some reason I remember that, but I was not sure I was remembering correctly.
I also, the first time I went to Mexico was in 1955 to the summer school organized by Marcus Moshinsky.
Yes, at UNAM, probably, the National University.
At the Autonomous, yes.
Yes.
It was very exciting, and we lived at a street called, I think it was Cumbres de Acochingo.
Okay, Ocosingo.
Yeah, I mean, that's a crazy area down that leads down to Veracruz.
I see, okay. And this was 55?
That was 1955 summer.
So you were what, a grad student?
I was a graduate student.
Uh-huh.
I had completed my first year of graduate study, and I drove down with a couple of American friends, and we had a wonderful time. We didn't learn a great deal of physics, but we had tremendous fun.
Yes, I can imagine.
In Mexico.
Okay, so
I went to, in 1955, I went to Palenque.
Okay.
Which I was one of the earliest tourists in Palenque, because it was not recognized yet.
Yeah, it was very early. Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, Shelley. So let's get to the end of this. I'm going to ask you a few questions from some of my followers. As I said, they are not scientists, and some of the questions will touch upon things that you have already discussed. So you can be as brief as you can, and you can just refer to those things. So let's see. Genoveva, she's asking, what advice would you give to a young scientist who feels that their ideas do not fit with the dominant tendencies?
Yeah, well, that's a sensitive question, because virtually every day, I receive a letter from some well-intentioned and reasonably well-informed person who has created a theory of everything, or thinks they have created the theory or a brilliant new physics, or found the error in Einstein's work, or something like this, and it's always wrong. And I have to write letters to these people explaining that, unsuccessfully, I'm sure, that their ideas don't make sense. So it's dangerous. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing, because too many people are convinced that they are geniuses. Barring that, it's still important to think outside of the box. Yes, outside of the box, but within the larger box of reason.
Yes.
And logic. We don't want to cast too many doubts on that, although, of course, mathematicians are free to question what we call logic, should they wish. But otherwise, the framework of science allows for a lot of intelligent research in all the fields of science, from archaeology to zoology. It just doesn't matter, and it's all so very exciting. So the big question is, for a young person who is going to college, is what they are going to do when they grow up. And that's very important. And it might be good for some people to become lawyers or politicians or plumbers or electricians or what. But the important thing for a young person is to find a job that they find interesting and that they find challenging. And I have found science to be even too much of a preoccupation. And my wife of 54 years feels that that I have been her first love throughout our life together, and perhaps she's right. And so that's a danger too. But certainly it is important to have a profession which you enjoy. And I am therefore not delighted at the fact that I have 4 children, all of whom are quite successful, but none of whom are scientists. Mm-hmm. And I have 10 children, and at least 4 of them have proven that they will not be scientists as well. What can I do?
Mario Franco would like to know, how important or advantageous was it to go to the high school that you went into deciding for a scientific career? Was it decisive in some way?
Yes, the high school I went to was decisive, not so much for the teaching, although the teaching was good, but it was for gathering together people who are interested in science. The Bronx High School of Science, you don't have to be interested in science, but it helps to be interested in science to go to that high school. It is intended to produce scientists and mathematicians, and therefore it is not surprising that I found 10 people, at least, on this, now I'm talking about high school, half a dozen people at least that were going to become physics professors. They were Steve Weinberg, Gary Feinberg, who became a professor at Columbia. That's another one who became a professor at the City University of New York of physics. Another who became a professor of physics at Brandeis, but at some point switched and took a law degree. He didn't get his professorship. He was rejected for tenure, so he went to law school.
Okay.
But it was very important to have a school where, for example, I was a member of the protozoology squad, which meant that it was my responsibility to clean up the laboratories after what the kids had done. I was inspired to grow protozoa at home, which I would collect from the nearby park. One of my colleagues got into the newspaper for allegedly finding a third sex among some kind of protozoan. So the science was central to me throughout high school.
Okay.
Science fiction was important to me from long before I went to high school. From the age of 13, I was a reader of the astounding science fiction. So that was another thing that brought me into science.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any favorite author or series?
Oh, yes. I've got a lot of favorite authors. A.E. Van Vogt, who introduced the world of null A, which I remember, which was based on some work on general semantics that had a certain degree of validity. Then also, in addition to Van Vogt, you caught me by there was Isaac Asimov,
Of course.
a great science fiction writer, as well as a very impressive person. He wrote a book about opera, which is very nice, and the annotated Alice in Wonderland. He wrote, aside from doing really good chemistry, because he was a chemist on rare gas solids. He was an expert on the inert gases and their compounds, which were only discovered in 1962. You know, the first rare gas compound was xenon hexafluoride, which was discovered in 1962. No, hexafluoride fluoroplatinate. It contained platinum too.
62.
62 was the first compound. Okay. That was after we were in high school.
Yes, of course. Francisco Ramirez asked you two questions. The first one is, if you imagined that you were going to win the Nobel Prize when you found the electroweak theory? That's the first question.
When I found the algebraic structure of a potential electroweak theory, I went off in other directions. I didn't take my work very seriously, and the answer is no. I did not. I thought it was a good subject for getting my thesis, but I did not follow up on it. I did work in many other fields until 1967, when Steve Weinberg wrote that wonderful paper called The Theory of Leptons, where he took the work that was done in 1964 by Peter Higgs and various other people and put that together with my electroweak model and made it into a theory. And not long after that, a few years after that, my two Dutch friends proved the theory was renormalizable.
Yes.
And so it goes. So that by 1979, that was why I won the Nobel Prize with my friends Abdus and Steve.
So when did you know that you were going to get it?
I was suspicious that I would get it the year before. The year before I did get it.
Okay.
And I had a telephone call at 6 o'clock in the morning on December 10th. October 10th or something, when I'm supposed to hear about the Nobel Prize. But it wasn't the Nobel Prize. It was my au pair girl calling by mistake. So that was a disappointment. But the year after, the telephone rang again at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I answered it. My wife was still in bed, and the first thing I heard was, "How are you going to spend the money?" And I said, "What money?" And he said, "The Nobel Prize."
Nice.
And that was how I heard about the Nobel Prize. I never got the telegram or the telephone or anything from the Nobel Committee, except by snail mail some days later.
I see. And who called you?
That was a radio station.
A radio station. Amazing.
It was a radio station, a sports radio station.
So you found out through a sports radio station?
Yes, yes. But then I called my friends at at Harvard, and it turns out that Paul Martin, who was a young professor there, had heard that it's very likely that I was getting a Nobel Prize, so he had made sure that they had bought champagne for the party that happened that day at Harvard.
Nice.
So what happened that I had a little celebration with my family, and then I ran off to Harvard where there was a big celebration. They had lots of champagne.
Can imagine. The other question that Francisco sent me is, if you could send a message to the 20th-year-old Shelley, what would you tell him?
20. At 20. So I was
undergrad at Cornell, probably.
I was an undergrad. I would say keep it up, because I was a physics major at the time, and I was having a lot of trouble with the courses. They were not all easy for me. High school was very easy, but when I started taking graduate level courses at Cornell, it wasn't so easy at all. And I would say keep it up. Okay. I took a course in quantum field theory, and I really didn't understand that at all. For example, at the end, the teacher said, I teach graduate students. You don't usually have undergraduates. Graduate students get A, B, C, D, but undergraduates get numbers. What number do you think would be all right for you? And I thought for a while, and I said, well, maybe 85. And he said, okay.
Okay. Do you remember like what book or what type of course was it?
We used Dyson's notes.
Dyson's notes. Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's very interesting. Ricardo Celis would like you to say what benefits and applications. It's interested like in applications, or of the things that you discover, what's useful for the common person.
I think the only thing that would be of interest to the common person is our rapidly growing understanding of the world about us. I think today, compared to in 1952, we've learned so much in these 70 years. Many of the mysteries that bothered us then, all this confusing zoo of elementary particles, now make sense, and we have a very profound understanding of the birth of our solar system and of the history of the universe. And I think that the tiny role that I played in this growth, I find very satisfying. But I can think of no improved toothbrush or understanding of disease that I personally was involved in. Nothing that would help you except knowledge.
Okay, fair enough. Sergio Ceballos would like to know if the standard model is in good health or if it is stagnant. In other words, he has heard of theories that go beyond the standard model, and he would like to know if they are considered more promising.
I think, to be honest, nothing beyond the standard model seems to make sense. The standard model of elementary particle physics. So far, in particle physics, the answer is no. They haven't gone beyond. And in cosmology, which also has a standard model, that standard model is in trouble, which is good, because being in trouble means that there are further things that have to be understood. There are some contradictions where you try to measure something one way and you get a different answer when you measure it in a different way. So cosmology is full of mysteries like dark matter and dark energy, and they have not been explained properly yet. So lots of challenges there. The challenges are hardest to identify in particle physics.
Okay. So along the same line, Patricio sent several questions, and some of them have already been answered. He asks, are we on the right track to propose a so-called theory of everything?
I don't really understand what a theory of everything would be, but we would like to have a theory, a unified theory of all of the forces of nature, including gravity.
Right. Okay. Now, Asalam Lopez, who is a high school math teacher, would like to know your opinion on the saying that mathematics only discover reality, not necessarily instead of just describing it. So I think he refers to the fact that maybe mathematics are not created but are discovered. Do you have an opinion on that?
You mean, were there such things as Lie groups before Sophus Lie invented them?
Things like that, yes.
No, I think there were I think the numbers exist. I think the real numbers exist. They have an existence beyond us. Whether transcendental numbers have any real existence is, well, I guess it could be debated.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I don't know. It would be interesting to know if you could formulate the standard model of particle physics in a theory without the real numbers.
Right. He also asks, what problem of physics would you like to be resolved before the end of this century?
Before this end, we have a lot of this century left.
Yes.
So a lot can be done, and I would like to see. I would like to if it would be wonderful to discover proton decay, because I feel that it might be detectable with, maybe it's only a factor of 10 away from being detected. There are some experiments that will be made in the future that can be precise tests of the standard model, searches, for example, for forbidden processes in among elementary particles, like neutrinoless double beta decay. This is one of the classics that's being looked for, or mu-E conversion, which is another exciting possibility.
Yes.
Maybe particles beyond the particles that we now know of are being searched for and have been searched for at the Large Hadron Collider, but nobody has found any yet. But there will be, I hope, future accelerators which will be more powerful, and we'll find surprises.
Angelica has a physics question.
Angelica, yes.
Angelica, yes. Very, very general. She wants to ask you what a cosmic ray is.
Oh, well, that's a question that can be answered. Cosmic rays are particles that, mostly protons, that come to us from outer space, that come through the atmosphere, not from the sun and not from the moon, and not from any particular star, but come from all different directions, and have energies that can be rather small or can be enormous, far greater than we can make in the laboratory. And they were discovered around 1910 or so by some scientists who went up with photographic film into the upper atmosphere in a balloon and noticed that his films got exposed by these strange funny particles that existed. And people began to study them in all possible ways, using telescopes, using film, using all kinds of different procedures, and they started finding all kinds of particles. It began in 1938 with the discovery of the muon, and that a very famous physicist, the thesis advisor to my advisor, my grandfather, so to speak,
Yes.
said when the muon had been discovered in 1938, he said famously, "Who ordered that?" Because it was just a particle that just didn't seem to fit into anything. And then that was actually, yeah, in people kept finding particles and not having any idea of what they were. For example, strange particles were called strange because nobody could figure out what they were. It was a lot of fun. Now we know what they are.
Now that you say that, why are charm quarks called charm?
Oh, because I call them charm.
Yeah, I know, but why?
Oh, why did we use the word charm? Well,
Yes.
I don't know. It just struck me. It struck me as an interesting name to give to the fourth quark. And it's a little bit like charge. Charge is one of the attributes that
Yes.
a particle could have or not have, and charm is an attribute that particles could have. Some quarks have both charge and charm.
Yes.
All quarks have both electric charge, and some have charm as well.
Nice. Okay, Alma, and these are the last questions from Alma. So changing gears, you already mentioned the current situation in the U.S. regarding science funding,
Yes.
and how things are moving and shifting. And she wants to know where and how does the scientist and the citizen must act in order to defend science against things like the ones that you are living in the US? And can a scientist and a citizen be separated things?
Well, I think the problem is in my country, and probably in yours as well, is that science education is not very good. And the average person who goes to school doesn't really learn much science or much mathematics, and certainly not enough to appreciate the successes that we have had in explaining the world about us. Very few. When I went to high school, I tried to memorize the periodic table. I didn't, and what the properties are of the different elements, because I thought that would be a lot of fun. I don't think there are many kids who try to understand the different elements in the periodic table, but I do. I love them, and I find great joy in chemical elements as I do in elementary particles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And lastly, this is the last one, Shelley. Your opinion on AI. Are you optimistic, pessimistic, and in particular, the possible benefits for science that AI may or may not, bring?
Well, there's no question that AI is and will become more so a valuable contributor to science. Of that, I have no doubt. But whether AI will have a good effect on society is a completely different question. So far, its effect has been negative. people are losing their jobs because some companies have discovered that they can replace jobs by inexpensive computers operating with AI. So that's, of course, things like that have happened in the past. Typewriters had made scribes useless, and cars have made horses useless. Those things happen, and it is tragic that people are losing their jobs, and this in principle could get much worse. Some people argue that the dream of the billions of dollars that people are investing in AI if these people are to make any money and get their money back and make a profit, AI has to be successful. And if AI is successful, it will eliminate almost all jobs. And then we will have a world with no jobs. And that would be not the world we live in today. It's not impossible to imagine such a world, but it would be revolutionary, different from the world we inhabit today.
Yes, indeed.
So I'm scared of what AI could do to society.
Okay. And now I think I remember, or I know what's the name of the hotel of Mexico, or probably Las Hadas.
Yes, Las Hadas.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, that is the name. It was a wonderful hotel. And by the way, I'm going to vacation with my wife in Mexico for 2 weeks in January, and we will be at Gran Velas.
Where is
Gran
that?
Velas is in the Quintana Roo.
Ah, perfect. In Quintana Roo. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. I hope you have you enjoy it a lot. Well, Shelley, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for spending this good hour and a half.
I would hope to see you at some point in my life.
Yes. I haven't been to Boston. You're still in Boston, right?
I'm still in Boston, yes.
I haven't been to Boston for ages. I typically go to the States very often, mostly to the Chicago area, Fermilab. And the closer I get to you is Newark. And I have family in New Jersey, so I spend sometimes Christmas and New Year's Eve there. But yeah, I would love to see you too. So maybe I'll think about paying a visit to the New England region and say hi.
Yeah, there's lots of schools here, so that you
Yes.
have no problem finding possible places to give a talk.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'd be great to see you people. It would
Okay.
really be nice.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Okay. Now you're right side up, but I'm side.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Como saben, en este espacio queremos hablar de ciencia, lo que en realidad nos permite hablar de cualquier cosa. Si tienen comentarios, quejas, sugerencias, peticiones, pueden contactarme a través del blog de Hablemos de Ciencia. La dirección es fefino.com, o envía un mensaje de correo electrónico a fefo.aranda@gmail.com.